All right, are you ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so first of all, just tell us your name and where you were born.
Duford E. Adams, which is Earl, Boonville, Arkansas,
Okay.
1950,
All right.
March 20th.
March 20th, all right. So how long do you have any memories from Arkansas?
I do.
Do you have any memories from Arkansas?
Oh, I do, from visiting the grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Dad would take us down to visit Grandma Adams
You can have that.
quite a bit. My NA, Dad's dad and my grandfather died in 52, so I was only 2 years old when they went to his funeral, so I don't really remember that.
Yep.
You know,
Does he like Corona?
So Duford's an interesting name. Can you tell us about it and the family history and how it came to be?
Well, according to my grandmother, Virginia, everybody called her Virgie, she said that she named her son Duford, and he was a Holland, and she was married to a Holland at that time. She said the name came from New Orleans, and it was a Cajun name, and they pronounced it Gifford. Instead of Duford, it was Gifford.
I like that. Mm-hmm.
And that's all I really know. She did tell me that,
Yep.
you know. She had all his stuff, his Purple Heart, the documents from his funeral, the service military person that escorted his body home. She had his name and record, and he stayed with them for a week, you know, when they had that. And I don't think they had the funeral until late 40s, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But he was married, had a daughter, and I can't remember her name. I've got it written down somewhere.
Was it Naomi or something like that?
No, Naomi is Dad's sister.
Okay.
And I think Naomi was a Holland,
Okay.
you know, Duford's sister,
Mhm.
full sister.
Yep. That was the other stepsister.
Pardon?
That was the other stepsister.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that would have been
That's
Dad's stepsister. He
Yeah.
had quite a few. He and Jackie and Clissa, I think, were,
List. I remember
Adam.
seeing that name. Yep.
I think. I'd have to look at the record on that. But anyway, Duford had a daughter. He married before he went to the end of the military. She had a baby while he was being in service. Of course, when he was killed over there, she became a military orphan. And she joined this orphans club, and they got together and went all the way back to where the battle took place. And I think it was in the Philippines. She had a whole article written about it. I wished I would have saved that.
Mm-hmm.
But she followed her dad's,
Yeah,
find out what
footsteps.
happened to him and
Yep.
stuff, you know.
That's awesome. So how did your mom ended up naming you Duford? How did that come to be?
How does my
How did you become Duford? Why did she decide to name you that?
dad and Duford were like Gunner and Shane.
Yep.
I think Duford was either born in 21 or 22. Dad was born in 27, you know, and they sort of grew up together. When Duford left home, he gave Dad his old Model A car, you know,
Yeah.
till he broke an axle on it. And then a guy traded him out of it, gave him a 22 rifle for that old car. you
Yeah.
know, so. But, yeah, that's how Dad and Duford, they grew up together,
Yep.
you know.
So she wanted to honor his legacy by naming you that?
I think because Duford was his best friend,
Yep.
you know. Not
Yeah.
only his brother, but I think he was his best friend.
Yep. And she understood the importance of carry on tradition and family names.
It's such a rare name.
Yep.
You know, Bufords are everywhere,
Yep.
but Dufords are not, or Giaffords,
Yep.
you know. They just, I can sign a check just with Duford
Yep. Yep.
and never have a problem,
Yep.
you know.
Yep.
It's just the way it is. It's, but if you look it up, I mean, if you look Duford up, there's a lot that comes up. There's every once in a while you'll find one.
Yep.
Not too often, but you'll find one.
Yep.
So but it's a unique name. It really is.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So what were your earliest memories? Do you have any
Mm.
earliest memories?
I think that'd probably be a Christmas of '54 down. Dad took us down to visit Grandma. And Dad bought me a little train set. And he sat there and played with me most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Dad was a big kid.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
he was a kid to all his heart. But that's probably the earliest memory there.
And where was that? Was that in Arkansas?
Yeah.
Okay.
And at that time, we were living in Mount Vernon in an old house behind a truck shop. And the house was there way before the truck shop was ever built. But Dad came home with a little rubber band airplane. And he sat out there and visited with me a little bit, but he put this thing together, you know, the wings on it, and he got it all wound up, and we were sitting there. He just let it go, and it goes flying out there. Of course, I'd go chase it for him.
Yeah.
You know, I'd bring it back. He'd do the same thing, you know. That's one of the earlier ones, too. It was about the same time as that Christmas trip.
Yeah.
Then the other one, we lived in that house, and Clyde and Earlene lived in a house about 500 yards away. But Mom was giving us baths in a galvanized tub. And LB and I. And the water started getting cold. So LB got up, went over to the stove and got the water and came over and poured it all over me. You know.
From the kettle, the hot water?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, jeez.
I had big blisters. I can remember them cutting them off.
That's
you know,
insane.
from the skin.
Yeah.
I was just all over me, you know. I know LB feels bad about that. You know, we
I
were,
bet.
well, he 16 months older than I was,
Yeah.
so.
He was just trying to warm the tub and
Yeah.
burnt his little brother.
Yeah, I know. You know, we got all kinds of trouble. See, because Clyde and Earlene lived there. Then that old house, they tore it down, and Dad bought a trailer house. You know, I think it was maybe a 40-foot long. It had a master bedroom and bunk beds in the hallway. And,
Yeah.
you know, and we had that there, and that's where the old Holiday Park is.
Oh, okay. Yep.
I'd show you exactly where that trailer's at.
Yep.
You know, but and Ronnie, he was so close in age with LB and I. We went everywhere together.
Yep.
You know, we'd go up on that mountain there, Mount Vernon, just across the road, go up there, and go all the way to the top. You know, we found an old tire one time. We'd get in that tire and roll down the hill. You know, and I always told Ronnie and LB how much fun we always had. You know, they had a 55-gallon drum. They rolled up, they'd shove me in it and kick it off the hill. You know, then they'd run behind it, beating it with sticks.
Yeah.
You know, and I'd tell them how much fun we had doing that. And Ronnie said, you know, LB and I never did that.
That's how it goes.
You know, they just ran along and beat it with sticks.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, we, like I say, we're very close. Ronnie is just as close as a brother ever was to me. You
So
know.
what's the age difference between you, Ronnie, and LB?
Well, Ronnie was born, I think, in like 47. LB was born in 48, and I was born in 50.
So close.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
you
I
guys
mean,
were close.
we were really, yeah. But you know, growing up as kids, I'm surprised we survived. You know, I mean, the stuff we got into.
Yeah.
Clyde's building a new shop out there, and we were all just playing out there with kids. Ronnie grabs this axe and runs out there, and this big cable running across the road, and he just took that axe and cut it in half. It was the electrical line going to the shop where they were building it. You know, it was a lightning show going off.
Oh, yeah,
it is
You
insane.
know, and one time we found a whole anthill out there in the old tailings, and Ronnie got a bucket of gasoline because we couldn't get it to burn. It was trying to, sticks and stuff, couldn't get it to burn. We just took that gasoline, threw it out there on it. Of course, it was already going. And he spilled gas up his arm.
Oh, geez.
All I remember is him running, and LB after him, headed to home.
That is insane.
So, but yeah, we had a good time.
Oh, yeah.
We did. And it was all the way up until I was 17, 18 years old. We were always close.
Just the three of you guys always tagging along together, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ronnie and I got a hold of a case of dynamite and about, I don't know, 50 foot of fuse. We was going to go fishing with it,
Oh, gee.
Because this is an old homestead up there.
Hell yeah.
LB was with us. We decided we was going to blow it up. We'd just blow the house up. So on each four corners we put sticks, and we had a roll of primer cord too. And we bundled them up each corner, and then we went upstairs, bundled up each corner, We went back downstairs. It was in the kitchen. It was a fancier old homestead because they had at one time a pump. So the well was right there. Well,
Yep.
they'd taken the pump off, and this pipe stuck up out of the cabin about like this,
Oh, shit.
So we take a fuse, and Ronnie capped it. Normally you cap through the dynamite like that, and you stick the cap through the side.
Yeah.
Make another hole, loop the fuse around, so the fuse can't be pulled out of the cap. That's why you do it. Anyway, we couldn't do that because of the pipe, so Ronnie put a hole right in the center of it and then slid that cap down in it. Then he cramped the fuse. He set it up there down like this, and he had LB light it, and he lets go. And the thing goes down, clunk, and the fuse is sitting there above, just burning. So we took off running out of that house. Ronnie gets out the front door, and he's, my gun's back there. So he turned around, ran right back, got his gun, stuck up against the cabinet, and ran out there with this little dip about 30, 40 feet from the house. I went out there and just dove into it. Well, there was an old Model T fender, or not fender, but motor hood.
Yeah.
They hinged, had the hinge on. The hinge was frozen. But anyway, I just grabbed it, put it up over my head, and laid down in that hole. And that thing went off, and you could hear the metal going through the air, just whoosh, 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 whoosh. It blew holes in that house everywhere. I mean, it just looked like you couldn't, if sunlight came through, it'd just be shadows of light everywhere. So we decided, well, we'll just destroy it. We lit the fuse on that, and it blew all the corners out, and it blew the upstairs corners out, and the house stood there.
What?
So about a month later, we were all sitting at the table there. Clyde looked around, he says, does anybody know what happened to that old homestead up there? He went up and burned it, burned it down. It was
Were you
dangerous.
guys just silent at the table?
It was dangerous after that. Oh,
Did anyone confess to it, or were you guys just silent?
what's that?
Were you guys silent when he asked you that? Or did you confess?
Oh, we never confessed to anything. We never confessed to anything. That was, that's one thing they teach you in the
Mischievous.
military too. Don't
Yeah.
volunteer.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, we just stayed quiet.
What about that time when you guys took that homestead? Remember you said you were
Oh,
telling me?
that was an old CC home.
Yeah.
Built during the Depression by the CCs.
Uh-huh.
Perfectly cut logs, just perfectly matched.
Yeah. What are the CCs?
It was a work program that they put together early in the Depression
Okay.
to put people back to work.
Yep.
Mount Hood Lodge, ski lodge,
Oh, really?
was built by them.
That's beautiful.
Most of the old historical places around, you'll find that they did build them. They built all the dams and reservoirs back in the 30s.
Wow.
That was part of the whole package.
Okay.
Put America back to work.
Yep.
But it was just beautiful cabin. It had two side windows and a main door. Well, the cattle had got in there and wintered over and everything else. The old floor had rotted out and the bottom logs were just mush. we got to looking it over and thought, well, you know, that'd make a really good hunting cabin. So we go back and get a tractor with a front end loader and a trailer. Clyde had a brand new trailer that he had for hauling bales, big loads. So we haul that thing up there and we take every one of those logs off and we mark them. We had this big crayon chuck they marked the logs with. And we marked and numbered them. Got them all set, everything, doorway, windows, we had everything. And we put it on that wagon and chained it down. Went out to the highway there on 395, middle of Bear Valley, and headed over the mountain, down through Canyon City, John Day, go halfway to Prairie City and turn back up towards the old Cinnabar mine.
Yeah, fun.
And that's where we were going to elk hunt. So we took it up there, and we're pulling it with this tractor with a front end loader.
I just wish I could see this. Be flying a little.
We unloaded that thing and stacked it perfect, you know. So we knew how we were going to put it together. Well, about a week later, because we could only do it on weekend, you know, because school had started. About a week later, on a Friday, the principal came and got Ronnie. And Tom Negus was sheriff at the time. And so, anyway, Ronnie finally comes back and said, boys, we're caught.
Boys, we're caught.
So,
Breaking the bad news.
anyway, we
awesome.
get with Ronnie had an old Ford Falcon. And we drove that out to Clyde's there, and we went in. We had to confess to Clyde. So we did tell him, you know.
Yeah.
Because it sort of did affect Clyde. It's next to his property where the... Anyway, Clyde said, well, you boys, because it was Saturday the next morning, he said, you boys take the tractor and the wagon up there and get it, and you take it back and you put it back up. So we get up there, and the Forest Service had burned it that week.
Oh my God.
You know, how they burn
Oh yeah.
brush and stuff.
Yeah.
They burned it. They knew exactly what that was.
Yeah.
So we had to go back and tell Clyde it's not there. So Clyde called Tom Negus up and made some sort of deal with him, you know. I don't know how it worked out. But I'm trying to think of Southworth's owned the property it came off of.
Okay.
Yeah. But he sort of covered that up for us. You know,
Yeah.
grand theft cabin.
Yeah. Clyde was good for that, right? Shit.
I mean, we didn't hide. I mean,
Yeah.
we thought it was a pretty good idea.
So you were talking about your dad earlier. What can you tell us about your parents? Just their names and a little bit about them and the impact they had on your life.
Well, I know when Dad first married Mom, he had been through the service, so he had the VA, but he never did really use it at all. He never bought anything with it. He didn't even apply for the disability that he had. When they got married, and they were down there, they worked for Clyde's dad in Arizona. I can't remember what Clyde's dad's name was, but he worked there at a sawmill.
Mm-hmm.
Up around Flagstaff, someplace up in there, Sholo or something.
Grandpa, what can you tell me about your parents?
About my parents.
Yep, that's where we're at, your parents.
Okay. Well, when they got married, Dad got a job with the Holidays because Earlene, Mom's sister, married a Holiday.
Okay.
And both Clyde and Earlene lived at that mill in Arizona.
Okay.
Well, Mom and Dad went there, and Dad went to work at the mill. So then
Your dad's name?
Pardon?
Your dad's name. His name.
Leonard Barrett.
Leonard Barrett.
Yeah.
Leonard Barrett Adams.
Yeah, that's why LB's LB.
Yep.
Anyway, they went there. Then Mom got pregnant, and when it was time for LB to be born, she told Dad she had to be with her mom. She wasn't going to have this baby out there at a sawmill camp.
Yeah.
So Dad loads her up in a car, takes her to Boonville, Arkansas,
Yeah.
and she has LB, you know. So everything's going just great and everything. Well, Dad goes back to work and everything. Mom gets pregnant again. And 16 months after my brother was born, she tells Dad, I'm not having this baby here. So he loads LB and Mom, and they head back to Boonville, Arkansas. And I'm born there.
Okay.
Then they load us up in a car, take us back to Arizona, and Dad's working there. My grandfather, Earl Walker, which is Mom's dad,
Yep.
and Earlene's dad, was the sawyer at that mill where they worked. So if you see how the Walkers tie in with the Holidays and the Adamses, it all began right there, you know.
In Arizona.
How it's tied together in Arizona. I tell everybody I was conceived there, but I wasn't born,
Yeah.
you know.
That's funny. Hey, she knew she had to be with family, you know.
Oh, yeah.
That's important.
Then the war came along, and Clyde went into the Navy. Mom's two brothers went into the Navy, and Dad went into the Army. And I think that most of them did, because after Pearl Harbor, you know. Dad was having stomach problems in the Army there, so they didn't want to do too much with him, so they put him in L.A. down there at, they called it the Fairgrounds, which was a concentration camp for the German prisoners. Japanese prisoners went to the East Coast, German prisoners went to the West Coast.
Okay.
It sort of separated them that
Yeah.
way. So Dad guarded prisoners down there during the war, you know. They called him, and he came up with he volunteered for the motorcycle police while he was there. So they started training him on motorcycles out there in the desert. And that's how Dad got interested in motorcycles,
That's where it goes.
you know.
Yeah.
They'd lay boards across the big ditches, and they had to ride across those and up over hills and all kinds of things. Dad just loved it.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I think he was just hooked on it.
Yeah.
They hunted jackrabbits at night on those motorcycles. You know, some had sidecars. You know. So, but at that time he called it the motorcycle police, which is an MP. You know, which is a military police. But,
Yeah.
they use the motorcycles quite often. But anyway, when the war got over and everything happened, Clyde went back to working at the sawmill. Dad went back to Arkansas for a while because his dad and H had moved back to Boonville. And they stayed there. I don't know. I think in 1949. No. I was months old when they moved to Oregon from the sawmill camp in Arizona. I was just a few months old. So.
And then what brought him to Oregon?
Clyde.
And
Clyde,
was it a gold rush or something?
No. Clyde worked for, or was in the Navy on a carrier,
Mm-hmm.
and he met this guy from John Day, Oregon.
Okay.
And the guy was telling Clyde about all the timber, the ponderosa, that was in that country. So when Clyde got back to Arizona, he told his dad he was going to go logging in Oregon, the Gpa log,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So he had teams of horses. He had a truck, and they had Earlene always told me it was like the grapes raft when they moved, you know.
Yeah.
Because they were still logging with horses, you know. Well, that didn't last very long once he got to Oregon. I mean, technology had changed so much. He bought a cat that took care of the horses.
Yep.
You know, just one cat. I think it was an old D8. You know, he kept that till he actually, on that ranch, that finally just gave up the ghost. You know, he plowed all the fields, everything with that old cat. That was one of the first purchases he bought. And then we bought logging trucks and everything else, and Dad was hooking tongs for him, which is they grab a hold of the log, set it up, and they got one loaded, and Dad threw the cable over and was he just bent down to get the cable, and log rolled off and hit him right on the back side of the head here. And it smashed. He had one of those old aluminum logging hat.
Yeah.
It just smashed it, but it broke his back a couple of places, broke both his ankles.
Damn.
That's all I can really remember. I know he was in the hospital for a long time.
Yep.
They put him in a body cast, and during the summer, he took us all water skiing. He lost so much weight, he could slip that cast off. And he water skied and he put it back on.
That's slick.
But that's how the holidays got up here because of the timber.
Okay. Yeah.
And they had a mill in Arizona.
Yeah.
So he got probably the worst of the worst his dad would let him have.
Yeah.
To start his own outfit.
Yeah.
That's how Clyde got started.
Okay.
Dad worked for Clyde off and on most of his life.
Yeah.
He worked for Edward Hines Lumber Company for a while. He worked for another lumber company there, John Day. But he never did really get away from the lumber industry. He stayed with it.
Yeah.
He died in the woods with a chainsaw running,
Oh my God.
clearing right away
Oh man.
for a logging outfit.
Yeah.
And the guy I was working with, Monty Simmons. Sound familiar?
Yeah. Yeah.
Simmons?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jaron.
Monty was there with when he found Dad.
Okay.
And Dad never did fall over or anything. He just sort of kneeled down and leaned forward, had his hand on the saw, and the saw was running.
Wow.
He just...
Doing something he loved though, right?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
wasn't going to give it up,
Yeah.
But Dad was 62,
Oh, that's young.
pretty young.
Yeah.
Mom was, I think, 66 or 65. Both very young, So I'm blessed to make where I'm at.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every day's a blessing.
So tell me more about your dad. You said he was the best man you've ever known, best man in your life.
Actually,
What made
Dad,
him- what
Dad
made him
was, I've
such a-
never known a better man.
So what kind of characteristics made him such a good man in your eyes?
He was honest,
Mm-hmm.
very forgiving, easygoing. I don't think anyone ever met my dad that didn't like my dad. He taught me a lot about character to watch for. One of the things he always said is, you are the company you keep. If you keep bad company, you become bad. If you keep good company, you become good. And it's pretty good philosophy.
Yeah.
It is. He would pick a character that he didn't particularly care for or something about it rubbed him wrong. He just stayed away from that person.
Yep.
He didn't want to have anything to do with them. He wasn't mean to them or say anything to them or anything. He just avoided those people.
Yep.
He didn't. And Dad hated conflict. He'd break out in a sweat if somebody was having a fight in front of him. He didn't like that.
Yeah.
So, but I don't, like I say, as far as any man I've ever known, I've never known a better one than that one. He was good character.
Yeah.
He was telling me he started smoking when he was about 4 years old. And they owned that farm there in Texas, Turkey, Texas.
So to just pause you for a second, Neely was a farmer,
Neely
right?
was a farmer.
N.H. Adams, he was a farmer.
Neely Hampton.
But Leonard was just in the mill and doing timber. Leonard just mainly worked in the mill. He was never a farmer.
My dad?
Yeah, your dad.
Well, he was as a kid.
He farmed as a
Him
kid.
and Duford growing up were farmers.
Okay. Yep.
You know.
Yep.
Up until the Depression, and you know, later on there, they sort of had to give it up.
Yep.
A lot of people lost their farms.
Yep.
NH lost his farm. They sold eggs and milk and cut ties for a railroad. You know, they'd deliver the milk to the train depot, the train to stop, pick the cans up and leave empties.
Mm-hmm.
And there was some sort of ticket that they signed off on. I used to have a lot of my grandfather's stuff. I don't know whatever happened to it, but I had this little metal box. It was his cash box. But it had poll tax receipts from Turkey, Texas, where he paid his poll tax so he could vote. That was the only way you could vote.
Wow.
You had to pay.
Wow.
You know. There was a bunch of stuff like that, and then some of the receipts for the farm and stuff that he did. But the Mexicans would come across the border and work for him, same families, every year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they did for a year. My grandfather gave them 4 acres that they could plant. And they'd have vegetables and everything they want. And some of them grew cotton too.
Yep.
And the deal with my grandfather was they could take it into the local markets and sell it, and they'd just give him half.
Oh, that's a good, yeah.
You know, sharecropping.
Yep.
What he was doing. And it worked out really good. But Dad told me that one row was all marijuana plants. You know.
Yeah.
And he said at about 4 years old, he knew what marijuana was. You know. And my grandmother would give him a dozen eggs to take to the store to trade, and he would get flour and something anyway, but he'd always get a package of cigarettes, which was about 4 cents, you know.
That's crazy, man. That's
So
4 years old smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
yeah, I know, you know. And he was sitting on the porch with NH, and Granddad, and this couple of neighbors came over and were sitting there visiting, and my dad was sitting there with his little 22, you know, and this fly's buzzing around. Dad killed the fly, you know. He'd put rock salt in his bullet and put a little wax on top of it.
Yeah.
And everybody thought he was the greatest shot in the world, you know. He just...
Smart.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that picture of him and Duford together, there's a dog there.
Mm-hmm.
Dad always had a dog.
Okay.
He loved dogs.
Yeah.
He just enjoyed them. And he told me once that dog there, him and that dog went hunting, bird hunting, you know, quail. And they got down in a draw, and he said this dog started acting really strange. And they were right in the middle of a den of rattlesnakes, you know. Dad said he was probably about 7, 8 years old, you know. And he said he just watched that dog would take a step, he'd take a step. You know, and you could hear him and he could see him.
Yeah.
You know. So Dad was sort of scared of snakes after that.
I don't blame him.
Yeah, he enjoyed his childhood. He really did. So.
What about your mom?
Pause real quick.
Well,
So
your
basically,
battery
you
again?
get 10 minutes from each battery.
No way.
Yeah, it
dude.
tells you.
You got it going on your phone?
Oh yeah, it's still on.
Or we'll just use your phone.
Yeah, my phone's ripping the whole time.
Technician.
I've been calling him for days. Charge the batteries. Charge the batteries.
You
My
have to
phone's
love
still
him
going.
for it, though.
My phone's always going, so whenever there's an in between, you can just tap
That's
it
alright.
on my phone.
Yeah, you have to love him for it.
Oh, always, of course.
It'd be better if you take the lens cap off.
That's a good one. It's like that. But why is it doing this? So I thought it was battery, but it only says 3 seconds available of video. I don't know why it says that. Like it was saying 10 minutes and it would tick down and down, so I'm not sure why it's doing this. Is it an SD card or what?
On your camera. Maybe you want to try my SD card?
Yeah.
I brought it. Yeah, might as well. Just be all over the place, but that's a trial run. That's why I wanted
Yeah,
to.
exactly. Like, see, that's horrible.
Oh, there's only 4 gigs.
That makes more sense.
Oh wait, not 4 gigs. How much does mine say?
10 minutes, bam. That's why. 24.
Maybe this was full.
Yeah, that would make sense. But we have 25 minutes on there. So you want to take that. But my phone's always going, so you can just cut it up. That makes more sense. So I'll have to buy another one for when we go to Eastern Oregon and whatnot and everything else. Alright, you are good.
All right. What about your mother? What do you remember about her?
I think Mom had a lot more difficult time, as a child. Grandpa Earl Grandma had Erling, Mom, Dub, Hansel, and Jean. She had 5 children. Mom was born in 32, at the height of the Depression,
Yeah.
And Grandpa Earl was sort of an absentee figure in that family. He'd come and go. He had a whiskey still. The feds caught him once, and he spent some time in prison.
So he was the bootlegger.
Yeah, moonshining.
I remember you had those pictures that you had shown me before. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was
That's
Grandpa
a
Earl.
picture of him with a couple of his stills.
Okay.
So, if you look at how the family was, then Grandma, she divorced Grandpa. Supposedly, he went into the military in order to keep from going to prison at one time. And I know he was in the military.
Yeah.
Ron showed me one of those old-time photographs of his whole division, all those soldiers. Of course, most of them were horses and mules that they used back then and stuff. And he had his old Army trunk, U.S. on it.
Yeah.
It was green, made out of wood. So I know he was in the military. I have heard different versions how he got out of the military,
Yeah.
but I suppose. But Mom, it made a difficult childhood, I think, for Mom, because about that time, within a couple of years after she was born, Grandma divorced Grandpa Earl and married what I consider my Grandpa Warren, and he was a Hooper. The Hoopers didn't take to the Walkers very well and sort of mistreated them during the Depression.
Yep.
So anyway, I think that's the type of situation my mom was in until she married my dad. And she was 16.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Do you know how they met? Was it in school or?
Pardon?
How do you know how they met?
Well, NH, when he lost the farm in Texas, moved to Boonville, Arkansas, and bought a very small homestead farm. So that's how Dad ended up back there. And Mom was there because she was always there. She never. I'm not sure. Mom was born in Boonville, Arkansas too. But anyway, they were there, and Dad came back home, from the military, and met Mom there because his dad was there. That's why Dad went back to. So that's how they met. They met at a roller skating ring.
That's funny. Yeah.
Mom always told me Dad could dance on skates.
Really?
So I put him on ice skates once, and LB and I couldn't keep him up.
A little different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, they met at not an ice skating, but roller skating ring because it was a big thing back then.
Yep.
All the way up through the 50s, roller skating was the deal. So that's how they met. Then they got married. Dad, through Mom, knew Earlene, which was with Clyde, working at a mill, and Dad got the job there. I mean, it's amazing how it all flows together,
Yep.
you know. But Mom, at a drop of the hat, would fight for you. You know, if somebody said something to you and she felt that was an insult to you, she was on them.
Yeah.
You know, there was just no ands, ifs, or buts.
Yep.
You know, Dad would just look the other way.
So she was feisty.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
At a drop of a hat.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't take much, you know. And she was really strict with LB and I as far as when we, you know, brothers fight. We'd get in fights and stuff. Boy, she'd just lay down the law about that. You do not fight, you know, your brother. That
Yeah.
just not going to happen. And before she passed away, she made me promise I'd see my brother once a month. You know, she didn't make him promise anything. You know, I'm lucky if I see LB 3 times a year,
Yep.
but at least I do.
Yep.
You know, do my best anyway.
Yep.
So, but yeah, she's pretty influential on the way I see things.
Yep.
You know, I haven't got her temperament. Dad wasn't judgmental. Mom was.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody did something wrong, she judged them. That was it. You know, Dad would. So, I think the two got together really well.
Yep.
One countered the other one.
Yep.
You know.
Perfect balance.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, and but yeah.
And how long were they married? Were they married?
Hmm.
How long, do you know?
Well, Mom was 16, so she was born in 32. So 42, she was 10. So 48. They got married in 48.
That's nuts.
So that's how long they were married.
And they were married until he died, until Leonard died?
What's that?
Were they married until Leonard died?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mom hated him for that,
Yeah.
leaving her. You know.
I bet.
Yeah. Yeah, she didn't care for that.
And she lived in Mount Vernon when she died, right?
Mom?
Yeah.
No, they were up on
Or Prairie City. Was it Prairie City?
No.
Where did she live?
When they died?
Yeah, when she died. Because I remember kind of a little bit of when she
Mom
passed
was
away.
in Prairie City when she died.
Okay, Prairie City, okay.
When Dad died, they were living on the spring up there where Ronnie's daughter lives.
Oh, okay.
That's where they were,
Yeah,
you know, when Dad died.
yeah. So after they moved to Arizona, they pretty much lived there their entire lives in that area.
Once they moved to Oregon yeah.
Yep,
Of course, they settled in Mount Vernon because that's where Clyde was,
yep.
you know. But yeah, up until 61, they moved to the ranch. And that's a whole nother story. I mean, I think in 57, no, probably 58, Clyde and Earlene were in that motorcycle accident.
Oh, that's right.
And that was pretty bad. But there was a lawsuit, and it was the largest suit ever settled in the state of Oregon.
What?
And it was never disclosed how much. You know.
The holidays.
Pardon?
That was the holidays, right? The holidays?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's how actually Clyde got the ranch.
Okay.
Herman Oliver was the biggest. Herman Oliver had banks,
That makes sense.
you know.
Yep.
He owned Grant County Bank. I mean, he was a huge rancher. When Clyde bought about 2/3 of that ranch in about 58, I think. And, you know, I have no proof that I'm speculating it was the funds from the settlement
Mm-hmm.
that bought that ranch.
Certainly makes
Because
sense.
there's no way you could go into debt that much and pay it off with cattle,
Yep.
you know. And he kept buying. He bought land and timber, and I think the time it was through, Ronnie told me once he thought it was close to 38,000 acres. When I was with them, putting up hay and stuff, it was known at 32,000 acres. So Clyde was always growing.
Yep.
You know, he was always investing more and more. But I think that's how it is. But then when he got the ranch, he brought his brother up from Arizona to run it for him while he finished up on his logging. Well, his brother just about ran it in the ground. There again, I'm just speculating that.
Yep.
Because he only lasted about a year. Then Clyde got a hold of Dad, told Dad he could move into that house in Bear Valley and be his foreman, and that's the way it was. You know, so.
Very interesting.
Why do you think your dad never took the money from the VA?
Took the money from VA. Dad,
Yeah.
it was a characteristic. He felt it'd be like a handout.
Mm-hmm.
Clyde begged him to sue him for that logging accident because Dad lost a year of work, you know.
So Clyde begged him to sue him?
He told him, Clyde begged Dad to sue him because his insurance would pay
Yeah,
it.
would pay it, yeah.
No questions, you
Yeah.
know, but Dad wouldn't do it.
So you'd say he was pretty hard-headed. He's pretty hard-headed.
Well, I don't know if you'd call it, he had a lot of
Literally.
pride.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it hard-headed, but
Yeah.
his pride would not allow him to do a lot of things.
Yeah.
He had a brother-in-law, Max, that was retired out of the Navy military, way up in rank, came out to visit him there at the ranch, and the Hanson ranch above Clyde's was for sale. You know, well, Max told Dad, he said, I'll buy you that ranch, and you just pay me off with the cattle as you sell them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, no interest.
Yeah.
You know, Dad wouldn't do it. It'd been a perfect place for him.
Yeah.
You know. Later on, I was working for Edward Hines Lumber Company. I did a lot of machinery work with H&S Machine Shop. And I got so I could weld our own boiler up, and he'd loan me a stamp, and I'd stamp the boiler, you know, because it's a pressure vessel. You had to have it. Anyway, he was visiting with him, and he told me, I'll sell you this machine shop, and you'll just pay me out of your profit, a certain amount of percentage. If I had a profit,
Yep.
he'd take a
Yeah.
percentage. If I didn't, he wouldn't take any. So I thought about that really hard. You know, I was probably about 24, 25 years old. So I went and I asked Dad, I said, Dad, I have an opportunity here,
Yep. A big,
you know,
yeah.
and it's perfect for Dad.
Yep.
You know, it would have been perfect. Dad he could fix anything, he could weld anything. If something broke, he could fix it. If an engine needed more compression, he'd figure out a way to get it, you know. But Dad just wouldn't do it. That's the type of pride he had. I could have used the bathroom.
Use it, Grandpa.
Good.
We can cut any. The place where you were stamping the things, your dad told you not to do it?
Oh, no. He didn't
What
tell me
happened?
not to do it. He just said he wouldn't.
Okay.
And I couldn't do it by myself because I
Yeah.
would have to quit the mill
Mm-hmm.
and rely strictly on what I could make off of that.
Yep.
And I just couldn't do it. I mean, I had 2 kids at home and a wife.
It was a risk. Big risk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was fully insured. I had everything I needed.
Yep.
So I stayed right there. But it was an opportunity. It just,
Yep.
I know Ron Hennon, like I say, he and I got along really well. I got laid off in the winter time. So I went and asked if I could get a job piling brush. So I've got one, and I'm up there around IZ piling this brush, and I kept seeing pieces of aluminum, and I looked up in a tree, and here's this tail wheel of an aircraft. So it really got my suspicion up. I got looking around, and I came up on this huge crater in the ground, big as this living room, with a big radial engine sitting in the center of it. You know, I mean, a big radial engine. I got looking around, and 50 caliber rounds were everywhere. You know, and where the plane went straight in like this, and the guns are out here.
Yeah.
It went, okay. Well, the ammo boxes behind those, or with those guns, just exploded, and it blew those shells everywhere. But it hit so hard, the ones that were in the belt to feed, accordion down to about that long. The bullet itself was back up against the primer of it. It just is a terrible impact. So I gathered up a bunch of old bullets and stuff, and this and that. And I get back home, and talking to a neighbor, old guy, and he was part of the search party. Went in and looked for that airplane and found it. And the party, he flew out of Reno, headed to Seattle, and that he never showed up, but they knew where the radio's frequency had him picked up around that area.
Yeah.
So they found him. So he took me out to his barn out there, and he had a bunch of old pieces of aluminum valves and all kinds of shit off that airplane, you know. And I told him, I said, you know, there's bullets laying everywhere. And he said, oh yeah. I said, we couldn't even pick them all up. So the next day when I went out there working to pile brush, I figured out where these machine guns hit the ground, and they just went straight in. So I dug down. Here I found a block of steel. I dig down further, and I get it to loosen up, pull it out. It's the whole machine gun.
Oh,
The
hell
barrel went slight angle, so it bent the barrel.
It is, yeah.
And the end of it's got a chrome tip about yay long. It's all chrome, you know. And I looked around, found all the action port and everything, you know, put it together. Well, I knew Ron Hennon was a gun collector. So I took it down and I showed it to old Ron. I said, Ron, would you like to have this? Oh, yeah, yeah. I hang it over a fireplace, you know. So,
That's awesome.
yeah, that's how Ron Hennon always, you know, he's older than my dad.
Yeah.
He's really a nice guy.
So
Yeah.
so you worked at the mill. What other jobs did you do? What other jobs did you have?
Wow. When I was in high school, I was shop steward for auto and woodworking and metal for 2 years. So I got married in my senior year. I got a night watchman job at a Heinz mill at Mount Vernon. And of course the mill had burned down, you know, but I was a night watchman. They had a little building for me, everything, you know, but the mill wasn't there.
Yeah.
But they were getting ready to build a new one. So they started building a new one. And once that started, they hired me on to start out with building that mill. So the biggest part was a wigwam burner. That's those big old burners where they burned all out. They converted it into air injection, propane injection, trying to get the smoke away, you know, so it didn't smoke so bad. So that was and you can't hardly weld that old rusty metal. I mean, it just, anyway, I've got that. Then they started construction on the mill, so I started with that. And so once the mill started, they offered me a job. Let's see, what was the first one? Barker operator. Run the Barker.
Mm-hmm. Now, is this the John Day mill? Or what mill is this?
Edward Hines, Mount Vernon.
Okay, Mount
It's
Vernon.
a
Okay.
veneer plant.
Okay, and what's it called?
Veneer plant?
Okay.
Yeah, they peel the veneer that they make plywood out of,
Yep.
you know, and they laid it down. When I finally left there, they had an automatic stacker, was vacuum, and it sensed everything. They had everything there I worked on, you know. I was millwright there for 5 years, you know, all the equipment that ran the logging part, all the equipment that ran the mill part. It was a good job.
Yep.
Paid well,
Yep.
you know. But then times got tough, and they cut us down to about 3 days a week. They started building a brand new Ochiko lumber, there in John Day.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember, I met one of the guys. Anyway, he told me, he said, just come down and see what I can do for you, you know. So I drove down there, and he said, I'll put you to work full time. So I had to go back. I told Hines that I just could not do it on 3 days a week. I was going, so I went there. And I worked there until we moved to Salem in '89, you know, so.
Yeah, that's when I was born. 89. That's when I was born.
Yeah,
Yep,
89.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you and Andrea moved to Salem.
I drove over to see you when you were born.
Yeah. So what brought you guys to Salem?
What's that?
What brought you to Salem? Some more opportunity?
You know, I was always safe where I was. I enjoyed my job and everything, but she wanted something different.
Mm-hmm.
So, real estate we could both do. So
Yep.
we did that. I never really, I can't say I didn't enjoy it. It's just that it wasn't my notch,
Yep.
you know. Then I got a job with New Holland, putting generators and tractors together, which was simple, easy. I mean, it's like, and then I applied for a state job, and the one at OSP came up. So I applied for that one and got it.
Okay, and what were you doing for them? I kind of remember a little bit, but
Was
was it with the radios or something?
radio technician.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And basically, we built towers. We put microwave systems in. When I was stationed in Salem, in other words, if I wasn't out on the field, I worked on radios and radars
That's
for the cars.
right.
And it came a time, every radar has two antennas, front and rear. Each have to have a license, certification. And the radio itself has to have a certification. So there's 3 certifications in a vehicle, you know. So if you ever wanted to dispute it,
Mm-hmm.
ask for the certification,
Of the equipment, yeah.
you know.
Yep.
The catch-22 there is I found a whole file cabinet full of certifications signed off. They could put any number they want in it, you know, so. But it does complicate things.
Yeah.
Anyway, those old radars were not predictable enough, you know, so they decided they spend enough money that over 1 year's time phase them all out. You know how many there are?
Oh yeah.
So they started buying them, and I'd take a pallet load of them in, and I'd set up my computer, and I open this one up, I put the serial number in on it, then I'd assign it to antennas, radar antennas, put their serial numbers in with it, and then I would hold it, and when Fleet would bring a brand new car in, I would assign a radar for that car, license plates, everything. So I had this all set up. That's why I was working away at it. We got about halfway through, and this lieutenant came in and wanted to know what I was doing. And I told him, I said, well, I'm keeping the radars and the antennas and the cars together. So, because you know what kind of mess this would be,
Yep.
you know? So he sent me a recommendation letter.
That's cool.
Well, yeah, I still have it.
Yeah.
But anyway, I got all that done. And we had pallets and pallets and pallets of old radars. You know, they were trying to figure out what to do with them. And I made one suggestion. They never did take it. They should have.
Yeah.
I told them, take them out to every overpass on every freeway and set one up with its antennas like this. I said, those truckers coming down through, it's going to get a beep, 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 beep. You know? And I said, you know, set it so it's on a timer. It's only on ever so often.
Yeah.
You know? They never did do that. But it had been so simple
Good
for
way
them
to
to
use
do
them.
that.
Yep.
And all it would be doing is keeping everybody, you know, legal.
Yep. Keeping them honest.
But they didn't do it. You know, I think they probably ended up some Indian reservation someplace. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah. Then they had a microwave system that ran from Pendleton to Salem, and all their communications was sent through that. In other words, a car dispatching in Pendleton would talk to a dispatch in Salem.
Mm-hmm.
And years ago, it used to be every town. You know, Pendleton had a dispatch.
Yeah.
Ontario had a dispatch. Burns had a dispatch. All these dispatches everywhere. But they combined it so that there's only one unit talking. In other words, central dispatch. So they narrowed it down to two, one here and one in Medford. You know, but it was all done through the microwave system. So I got to work on that, setting the dishes up and everything. They'd send me up on top of the towers with binoculars and a mirror. You know, and I'd try to find the other site. Once I found it, I'd take this mirror. It had a hole scratched on the back of it. You know how a mirror's painted black on the back?
Yep.
Scratch a hole. You hold that mirror up so the reflector's out here in any sunlight, and you look through that hole and you line it up with your target and you start working that mirror back and forth. Never who's there will see that flash. It's sort of amazing. They'd send me way up on top of the tower to do that, you know. At nighttime, over at Pendleton over there on one of those nodding hills, and the wind was just blowing like hell. And it was one of those cable towers. You know, the tower itself is not very big at the base even. Matter of fact, some of them just had a round base.
Oh, man.
You know, the cables held them up. Well, I'm up there on this thing. I'm trying to get a sighting on this granary there in Pendleton, you know. And it was just blowing like mad. Never did get it, you know. But we put a new tower in at the sheriff's office in Pendleton, which is down in a hole a little bit. So we had to shoot the microwave across up on a hill and then down. So, because we never could get it. If we could have had a line of sight, we would have saved 2 tower sites.
Yeah.
So, but I enjoyed that job. I enjoyed being a millwright. I really enjoyed aviation.
Yeah.
You know, because there's so many people in Oregon don't even know they have an aviation department. You know, they just take it for granted.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I've had a good life. You know.
I'd say so.
100%.
Well, did you have any dreams growing up? Like dreams of what you wanted to do or be?
You know, I think my life started out with a bang. You know, I was 19 years old by one day when I got married. You know, so everything I had, I focused on that, what I had.
Yeah.
You know, as far as ever being a dream, wanting to do something, it was too young for that.
Yeah.
You know, I think that probably happens when you're 18 to 25 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have sort of a where you want to go.
Yeah.
My trigger was already set.
Yeah.
You know, I have no regret.
Yeah.
I don't.
Remember you telling me that? Yeah.
Yeah. That's a lot of people think they can change things. You can't. You change one thing, you lose it all.
Yeah.
You know. So.
What about like your hobbies at least? You know, I know you did some snowmobile racing, right?
Well, I know when I was 25, a good friend of mine was a doctor, and he bought a plane, brand new one. He asked me to go up with him, so I did. First time I was ever in a plane, 25 years old. We go up there and we fly all around, you know, and he lets me play with it a little bit and everything, you know. It's a brand new Cessna 152, you know. And I didn't see him again for several months. And I had to have a CDL, so I had to go back to see him so I could sign off on my commercial license. And he told me he bought a twin engine, and he was starting a new practice in the Dalles, and he could fly in between. You know,
Must be nice, yeah.
yeah. He wanted me to buy that little 150 from him. You know, 15,000. You know, which it was a new,
Yeah.
and it was paying for itself.
Yep.
It was the school's airplane.
Yep.
You know, all the trainers, everything. And it was booming back then pretty good. It would have paid for itself. I just couldn't pull the trigger on it, you know. But I told him I just can't do it, you know. And he said, well, I'll tell you what. If you get your pilot's license, I'll let you have the plane for $8 an hour. And they were charging 15,
Yeah.
you know. He said, but you'll have to pay for the instructor. So that's how I got my license. You know what my total cost per hour was?
Huh.
About $14
Oh, wow.
an hour. But I didn't have it a lot, so I went home and talked to my wife. I told her, I said, you know, this is something I really want to do. I'm going to take half of my overtime,
Yep.
and I'll set that aside, and I'll get my pilot's license. And that was one of my dreams. I did get it.
Yep.
You know, it took me a long time,
Yep.
you know. Had to fly into Pendleton for the flight test with the FAA, and I had to fly into Boise for the written test, you know. So,
Yeah, that's awesome.
but yeah, that was,
What year did you end up getting your license?
what's that?
What year did you end up getting your license?
75.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
1975. I was 25 years old when I got it. So,
All right,
but I never would have been able to do
Is
it
it head?
Yeah.
without that doctor helping me with the rental on his plane.
Yep.
You know, I couldn't afford it. Without that, it would have been costing me 20-something bucks an hour, and I just couldn't do it.
What do you think it costs now?
Probably,
50 to 100?
I'm just guessing, but I'm going to say 135 bucks an hour,
Jeez.
Same.
you know, at least,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, that was cool. He saw that you were interested in that and, you know, helped you make that happen for you.
Well, if I would have bought that plane, it would have paid for itself.
Yep. Hindsight's 2020 always.
All right, good.
What about the snowmobile racing?
Ooh. Of course, Dad was on the ranch and he had a snowmobile. You know. So I got to ride one every once in a while. Well, anyway, Junior Saunders had a Yamaha dealership in Seneca. And he invited Dad and I to a local race around there someplace. We went to it, and of course, I wanted on Dad's machine. You know. That went on a time or two, you know, here and there. And finally, Junior got, they allocated him a factory racing snowmobile.
Yeah.
They're not for sale,
Yeah.
you know, they're just strictly for racing. And so he wanted me to ride it for him, so I did. And we went everywhere. We went to Klamath Falls, Spokane, Yellowstone.
Wow.
I went to Yellowstone. We got over there, and it started snowing, which is fine for snowmobile racing. And the factory, Yamaha, had about 4 semi-trucks there, and any part you needed. You know, if you needed a piston, a head, a motor, whatever. And Junior had given me a credit card. We rented a little A-frame from an old couple, you know, and it came that snow, and it was pretty bad. But anyway, I had a full Yamaha uniform, same as all the other racers. The factory racing team was there. Everybody had the same helmets.
Yep.
So she decided she wouldn't be able to see me unless she put a scarf around my neck. So she got this big yellow scarf wrapped around my neck. About the second lap of the race, you know, I'm running up there about second or third, just going like mad, and that scarf sucked into the carburetor. Whoa!
Bogged it down? No.
That was it. So it disqualified me. So
That's what you get for listening to a woman.
I know it. Damn thing. Then it started snowing and blowing the wind.
Mm-hmm.
And they closed all the highways. We couldn't get out of there. You know, for 4 days.
Oh my God.
The only way you could move around was on a snowmobile. You couldn't even drive a car. They didn't even plow the streets in West Yellowstone. It was so bad.
Jesus.
So you take a snowmobile and go down to the restaurant or Elks Club or whatever. Even the police had one. They put a light on it.
That's hilarious.
You know. But yeah, we finally made it home. I
So-
about lost my job over that one.
Oh, you did? Because
Yeah.
you were out of town for too long?
At the mill, yeah, it's
Yeah.
gone too long.
Was it worth it?
Oh, I wouldn't take anything back.
Yeah.
You know, I really wouldn't.
Yeah.
Junior told me if I'd go to the mechanic school for Yamaha and get my certification, he would start a new store in Hood River.
Ooh.
He and I flew to Hood River and picked out a site. He put a down payment on it. Then there again, he gives me his little credit card for gas, and I go to LA, Yamaha International,
Yeah.
and it's 2 weeks down there. I stayed with Dad's sister and her husband, Ari. We stayed there. I went through that school, and we come back, and by that time, the Northwest Regional Yamaha guy gave his nephew Hood River. So,
Man, that would have been a great opportunity.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was my snowmobile.
Yeah, after that, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we worked on motorcycles
Yep.
and snowmobile, everything. They started out with the small Yamaha, and the biggest one then was like an 850.
Yep.
Big one, you know. And the last 2 days, they tear them all down one day, mix all the parts together. The next day, you have to put your bike back together. I mean, it was, yeah. And some are interchangeable, no
Yep.
doubt.
Yep.
Some are interchangeable, but it was pretty tricky. I enjoyed that too.
So you'd say your love of motorcycles was from your dad, right?
What's that?
Your love of motorcycles?
Dad always had bikes,
Yeah.
always. It's just the way he was. He loved motorcycles.
Yep.
He went down and bought a new 650 Yamaha. Left the place. He bought it at the Hennon's, Ron Hennon's place, the machine shop.
Yeah.
He bought it there. Riding it up through the canyon, a bunch of cars went by him. He just turned that bike around, took it back to Hennon. He didn't want it.
Why? Why? Too powerful or what? Or just
He
scared?
hadn't
of the
ridden
car?
in a long time, and on the highway,
Yeah.
cars going by sort of spooked him on the curves.
Yep.
But he always had a small dirt bike, or he
Yep.
always had one of those, but not a highway bike.
Yep.
I was getting out of school and I was riding the bus. Went by S&M Motors, and they had this motorcycle sitting in the showroom window. I couldn't even tell what it was, but when I got home, and I said, "Dad, they have a motorcycle in S&M Motor Company down there." So we jump in the car and go down there, you know. And I think I was probably 15, right in there.
Yeah.
Good, good.
Just a recording?
I got to take a break.
Good, good. Is your phone still recording now?
No, it's at 3%.
What else you need to know?
So, since you had children so young, what's some advice you would give your younger self with the knowledge that you have now? What kind of advice would you give your younger self?
That I would give who?
Your younger self, right?
Yeah.
So if you could give yourself advice, if you could go back in time and give your younger self advice, whether it being a parent or career advice, what do you think you would tell yourself?
That's sort of tough.
Mm-hmm.
If you consider as a human being, consider two. And when you think, this one will argue a little bit. And pretty soon you'll come to a compromise that's in between. That's what makes us so much different than any other species on the earth. Is we have this, they have this.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of individuals are more one-sided. They're self-centered. They only think of self.
Yep.
If you add the other, it gives you a different opinion.
Yep.
So when I think of something, I'm not only just me thinking it.
Yep.
I'm bouncing it off myself.
Yep.
You know, that's the way I see how I feel.
Yep.
You know, I'm always talking to myself mentally, bouncing back and forth. What's right? What's wrong?
Yep.
You know, my dad's advice was do no harm, and I don't know how many times he ever told me that. If I was having trouble or somebody bothered me or something, Dad would always be, just do no harm.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't really beat
It always, in other words, when you're bouncing a question off yourself, just do no harm.
Yep.
You know. So.
What about advice for Gunner and myself as we grow older?
Always be honest with yourself.
Yep.
You know, and that falls back to that.
Yep.
I think if you're honest with yourself always, you're going to be okay. You know, and no matter how bad things get better.
Yep.
You know, you might think this be the worst day of your life, and 20 years from now, you look back and say, damn, that was the best time of my life.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know, so don't judge the day by the day.
Yep.
You know, just do the best you can each day. That'd be my advice.
Yep.
You know, and if you can pass that on, that's even better.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah, that's why we're here.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's see. Do we have any family secrets?
Oh, damn. Family secrets. That's a good one.
Very good one.
None that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
I'm sort of ashamed of myself because I never really talked about Amy. And Carrie didn't find out about Amy until she was like 16. That was hard on her.
Was Amy the daughter that you lost? That you guys lost?
She was a daughter I lost.
Yep.
Yeah. But I feel bad about that. It's just something I didn't talk about. Something she didn't talk about.
Yep.
You know.
Where did she fall? Was she after my dad? In between Carrie?
Right in between.
Right in between them?
Yeah. No, she was born in 72, October 22nd.
Okay.
Yeah. But she only lived 2.5 months, 2 months.
Wow.
You know. So. Yeah, that was a hard time. You know.
So your way of coping with it was just stuffing it away, kind of, and not.
Just don't talk about it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's most people's regrets is just not dealing with their shit.
Yeah.
You know
And
what I mean?
I feel bad because it hurt Carrie.
Yep.
You know, she didn't know she had a sister until she was, what, 15, 16?
Yeah.
You know, or what happened to her or anything. She just, all of a sudden,
Yep.
you know, that was a tough deal.
So how did Carrie eventually find out? Did you guys tell her?
You know, I'm not sure
Yeah.
how she found out.
But she did. Yeah.
You know, I know we went to counseling at school, and that's when it was brought up.
Yep.
You know, so. And I couldn't explain to her why.
Yep.
I'm sort of ashamed of that.
Would you say that was one of the toughest things in your life? Toughest things to deal with? Like the hardest thing in your life to deal with? Losing a child?
You know, at the time I was, 21? So I was 22 when she was born.
Damn, you're my age.
But you go through a 9-month pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
with people you care about.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, there was a lot of other things involved there.
Yep.
First of all, she didn't want to have that baby in a hospital. She wanted to have that baby at home. And no matter how hard I talked to her about it, her mind was set.
Yep.
And that's the way your grandmother is. I mean, when her mind's set, it's set.
Yes.
No
yes.
changing.
Was my dad born at home or in the hospital?
He was born in the hospital.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So she
I
maybe
remember the
didn't have a
doctor
good
held him
experience?
up like that and went like that, and I hit the ground.
So
Just
that's
like
when you passed out.
I was outside looking through this big double door window thing, and that doctor held him up and went like this, and I just hit the floor. That was it.
Wow. And you were 19 or 20?
Let me see. He was born
19,
in
right?
he was born in 69. I was
Yep.
19.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, the camera's gotta cool off.
Yeah. Anyway, she wanted to have that baby at home, and I did everything I could to convince her not to.
Yeah, so it's gotta wait for it to cool.
Here, run my camera.
Hey,
He had one job, Grandpa.
camera.
What job, Grandpa?
He had one job. All right, keep going. About the baby in the hospital or the house.
The house. She did all the research. She had the house set up, sterilized, plastic, I mean, everything. And I had to deliver that baby.
What?
That was really hard. I would just, it's an experience of a lifetime.
It is. It
Yeah.
changes you.
Yeah, and it would have been just perfect if the baby would have been perfect, but she wasn't.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
so anyway, I knew something was wrong, so I called the doctor, and I couldn't get her to go to the hospital. So the doctor showed up at the house, and he came in and talked to her a while, and got her all ready, and we put her in the car, and we had the baby, and we drove to the hospital.
Yep.
And then about 40 minutes later, the Air National Guard vac showed up and took the baby, So we didn't know what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
So the doctor took good care of her, and that evening I loaded her in a car and we drove to Portland, where they'd flown the baby.
Wow.
So, and there was some sort of program they had there. They put us in a little cheap motel down off the hill there. We stayed there for about 4 days or something like that. And then finally they came out with everything that was wrong. She had she was missing one part of a chromosome,
Mm-hmm.
and she would only live a very short time. Most of them died during childbirth,
Yep.
So we loaded her up. We went down to a store and bought doll clothes. She was a very small baby. Bought doll clothes for her, dressed her up, took her home, And God, everybody was pissed. Nobody knew what happened,
Yeah.
So in about 2 months, she passed away. I was working and she called me up, asked me to come home. I loaded her up with the baby and took her up to the hospital, and that was it.
Wow.
That was a tough time for me,
Yeah.
So after that, she didn't want to have any more kids. At all.
I don't blame her.
I don't
No,
know
she
that.
didn't.
So there was no housewife. It was just you and Grandma.
What's that?
There was no housewife or like a lady to help you guys with the birthing. It was
Oh,
just
no.
you and Grandma.
No,
That's insane.
we did all the book studying. She did everything. I mean, she had everything ready.
Jeez.
I knew to tie the navel 2 places
That's crazy.
where to
Dude.
sever it.
I didn't know that.
Had all the antiseptics. I
Yeah.
had everything.
Yeah.
Holy
It just-
shit.
Like I say, there's no way I'd ever changed her mind,
Yeah.
you know. Although I would have done anything in the world to change her mind,
Yep.
you know. But the outcome would have been the same anyway.
Yep.
Sure.
It's like I got to experience childbirth.
Yep.
That was
You know, I was born in a house.
Yeah, I know you were.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Do you have a midwife?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, midwife. That's what they called it. Midwife. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I wished I had one.
Yeah. That's Grandpa. That's wow.
Yeah, I
That's
know.
intense.
That was, of course, Sandy, I was 22 years old, so a lot more mature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I could handle it. But
That's insane.
I wouldn't want to ever do it again.
Do you think Grandma would talk about that or no?
Probably not.
Probably not.
You know, you could ask her, but I don't know if she'd ever talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Just one of those things. You know?
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, it is. It's and that was really hard on her. Like I say, she didn't want to have any more.
Yep.
I finally convinced her one more.
And we got Carrie.
That was
Thankfully. Yeah.
That was it.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's see, Carrie was born in 74.
Yep. About 2 years later.
I had a vasectomy in 74.
Really?
Holy
I promised her. That was it.
No more. Yeah.
She gave me one. That's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
All right. So, what are you most proud of?
Oh, my kids.
Yeah.
I don't think I could be any more prouder than my kids.
Yep.
You know. I think out of all the things in life, what you're going to leave on this earth, that's it.
Yep.
It's not money. It's not anything.
Yep.
It's the genetic clone of yourself.
Yep. Yep.
That's what you leave.
Yep.
You know, I personally, I believe in God. I know a lot of people don't,
Yep.
but I do. I believe in a creator. I think it gives me the ability to cope with things that are beyond my scope. If you look at what the space shuttles and the photographs they're taking and how far out in time, and I mean, they're finding the new galaxies.
Yep.
There's only one way for me to cope with that.
Yep. There's no other way to wrap your mind around it.
I can't believe that all this dust balled up into a ball, and here I sat.
Yep.
There's more to it than that.
Yep.
You know, my personal beliefs that it's energy.
Yep.
You know, it's your mind is nothing but spontaneous neons flashing back and forth in your brain, but it's energy. And I think energy is always there. You know, it can be altered, but it can't be destroyed. You know, it's always there. So that's why you have two of these.
Yep.
Talk to this, talk to that, talk to that. You know, what's really talking up there is these sparks between them.
Yep. And there's a constant battle between good and evil,
Yeah.
right?
Well, yeah. I wouldn't say good and evil. I would say right and wrong.
No, exactly. Yep.
You know, evil is a pretty bad word, although there is evil people.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't deny that, but for me, it's right and wrong.
Yep.
You know, do no harm.
Yep.
But there again, if you look at two lines, if you explain life, two lines, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, what are those two lines?
Like you said, right and wrong.
Good and evil.
Mom, dad,
Yep.
genetically.
Yep.
How do you have instincts? How does a baby deer jump up in 5 minutes after it's born and run?
Yeah.
You know, that's a born instinct.
Yep.
So I think that's mom, dad,
Yep.
and which one you favor here and there.
Yep.
Same principle as when you're thinking to yourself, right, wrong, right, wrong, right, wrong.
Yep.
And a lot of times you have to take the best of the two evils,
Yep.
you know. So sometimes it's better not to say anything.
Most of the time.
Exactly right.
Exactly. That's my dad's approach.
What would you say the time period that was most memorable for you? The time period. Number 16.
Well, I would say when Amy was born.
Mm-hmm.
It's the most deepest rooted thing that I can emotionally intake.
Yep.
You know, if you look at accomplishments, it'd be my kids.
Yep.
That's my accomplishment. I have nothing else. They're all I have. They're all I want.
Yeah.
So it's sort of that way.
Yep.
But I don't know about, if you looked at it, time period of life. I'd have to break that down. The birth of my kids,
Yep.
would be, I don't know much more,
Yep.
that I'm proud about.
Yep.
Anything else I'd be boasting.
Yep. Yep. Like you said, it'd be about yourself, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
It's not about me,
Yep.
never was.
Yep.
So,
All right, last question here. Number 18, what things make you the happiest nowadays?
what number is that?
18, 1, 8.
Oh, I don't know. I think going to a grandson's wedding, accomplishments.
Yep.
Very proud of Gunner.
Yep.
Very proud of you. I'm proud of all my grandkids. I just, I can't brag enough about them.
Yep. Yep.
I'm very proud of my kids.
Yep.
Jaron and Charlene, late in their life, adopt 2 kids
Yep.
and raise them. I'm very proud of them. No matter how the kids turn out,
Yep.
I'm very proud of them.
Yep.
Your dad, I think his whole life was based on having a family.
Mm-hmm.
That was his goal.
Yep.
So Carrie and Dan are just, she's married twice before.
Yep. Yep.
And those I didn't really care about, but it wasn't my place to say either.
Yep.
But Dan, I'm very proud of.
Yep.
He takes care of those girls. He takes care of Carrie. So, yeah, I think the most proud of things is my genetic leftovers.
Good. Good. What about things for yourself? I know you and Linda like traveling, and what joys do you get out of life? Other than just, like you said, your family. What other joys, like, just walking or hiking, whatever things you...
Traveling, I think, Linda and I want to travel a lot.
Yep.
And the older we get, the harder it's going to be for us to do it.
Yep.
But that's one of our goals that we had. We were going to travel. I enjoy her company terribly.
Yep. Yep.
So she's a challenge sometimes, but I enjoy her company.
So what do you think how do you think traveling benefits you, or what do you think you learn from traveling? What do you get out of traveling?
Out of traveling?
Yeah.
Seeing something I've never seen before.
Yep.
Something new, It's like watching the best television movie you ever saw. If you watch it later, it's not near what you thought it'd be.
Yep.
It's that one-time experience of seeing something new,
Yep.
you know. And I just like to travel. And I like to travel with Linda. She's my tour guide.
I think that's great that you guys are traveling. You know?
Yeah, I'm sort of proud of that because Dad was a homebody. He didn't like to leave.
Mm-hmm.
If he went anywhere, point A to point B.
Yep. With purpose,
Get
right?
back.
Yep. Yep.
LB's the same way, and I've tried my best not to be that way.
Yep.
But like when I go over to Eastern Oregon, it's point A to point B.
Yep.
There's really no in between.
Yep.
And there's so many things to see in between.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I hate myself for not doing it, but I just can't stop myself.
Yep.
To get home,
Yep.
you know. So
would you say some advice for us would be to, take the side roads and experience the little things along the way and make the time to stop
yeah,
and, check out the,
that's what a person should do.
yep,
What they call take the time to smell the roses.
yep,
You know, that's really true. If you really want to experience life, do that.
yep,
You know, take your time.
yep,
There's no rush. You know, if you think you have to be to A to B, take a bunch of zigzags.
yep,
You know, take your time. And that, like I say, that's been my hardest to overcome.
yep,
You know, is I don't want to be like that. I want to experience it.
yep.
So I like traveling. I like seeing things new.
Good.
But I could show you places in Oregon you wouldn't believe.
I know. You've been everywhere.
I know. I have.
Strawberry Lake was definitely like the.
You know.
That's
Yep.
nice.
All right, actually, I got one more. Because I know you're inventious and mechanical, and you must have got that from your dad. I learned that today, right? You got your mechanical mind from your dad. Because I tell everyone that I meet, my grandpa, he can fix anything.
Mm-hmm.
If something's broken, he can fix it. So
That's where my dad is.
exactly. So what inventions of your lifetime are you most impressed with? Or what kind of inventions, you talked about the airplane. What kind of inventions are you most impressed with? As we've gone into the technological era that we're in today.
What I'm more
Number 19. 19.
19.
19, yeah.
That's it. At the veneer plant, working there, they have 4 trays off the lathe. So if they peel a log and it goes out here, and then it trips, it goes here, and then another log, a trip goes here. So there's 4 trays always full
Yep.
or being filled. At the other end is the clipper. It cuts it. They couldn't figure out a way to get the clipper to catch all 4 trays.
Mm-hmm.
So I used a double-ended cylinder. In other words, it got a shaft on both ends. So it gave me 4 positions on both sides. Then I drew up the schematics of the normally closed switches, normally open switches, that when they hit the button to move it, it would go up and hit stop at that tray. Or if they hit it 3 times, it'd go up to that tray.
Yep.
So I had to put it all together, draw out all the schematics, and then build it. So I did that. And before I left, I offered them the schematics and everything on that table. And the guy told me if I kept it, it'd probably be worth something someday. Never was, but it was, the control box was only that big.
Yeah.
It had 4 switches on top and it had buttons for them. It was very simple setup, but it was hard to get here
Yep.
with a double piston. And I used air. I didn't use hydraulic. I used air, pneumatics,
Yep.
So I was pretty proud of that at the time. I was about 30 years old,
Yeah.
So, but achievement-wise, be my kid,
Yep.
grandkid,
Yep.
great-grandkid.
Yep.
That's my achievement, I don't think I've ever done anything by myself that I needed praise for.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Is there anything else that you want to tell us that you think we missed or anything?
I would say live your life to the fullest.
Yeah.
And I know it's hard sometimes. You just sort of have to sit back and till you come up with a solution.
Yeah.
Come up with the best one. The other thing is, Gunnar, if you ever meet the person that's going to be your other half, you have to treat them better than you treat yourself.
Absolutely.
And that's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as you do that, you'll have that other half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Putting someone else before yourself, that's
Always.
one of the hardest things to do.
Always.
Yeah.
If you really look at it, it's like for you, it'd be your wife and your children, then yourself.
Yep.
Always.
Yep.
Never, ever put yourself before them.
Yep.
Once you do that, you're going down the wrong road.
Yep.
So, but some people say that's selfish if you do it, and it is.
Yep.
Because your job is to share their lives.
Yep. Anything else? Are we good?
Well, my dad always told me this, and I'm a firm believer of it. If you have to drink to feel better, there's something wrong. And I've always believed that so many of the classmates that are gone now, but were alcoholics.
Yep.
And they drank just to drink.
Yep.
But anytime you have to have a substance to feel better, think about that for a while.
Yep.
Look at all the other things you have out there.
Yep.
You still want that Henry?
What do you think?
I've got it for you.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't think you've got enough room in your rig to haul everything I want to give you.
I got the Subaru. I got Katie's car, the Subaru.
Oh, do you?
It's got room.
You can have my pontoon boat.
Yeah, we need to figure a way to get that up there.
Should take that up to Strawberry.
Oh yeah, good luck hiking that in.
Mm-hmm.
So you're coming with us this summer. Even if it's just one day.
I'll think about it.
Even if it's just one day.
I've got a birthday before then.
Yeah. Hey, we'll make it work.
Yeah, I know. It's really enjoyable.
Yep. But yeah, I like the Henry. Do you have the 22 still, or just the 357?
The 357 is not mine to give away.
But you still have the 22.
I'm talking 22.
That's what I want. That's
Is that the one you want?
Yeah.
I'll give it to you. You can have it.
Good.
Yeah. The Henry.
Yeah.
And then we want to do another style of video like this, but you and LB.
Oh, Lord, you'd get us all in trouble doing that.
Well, that's what we were wondering.
All those
Just
secrets.
a short one. We don't have to do anything crazy, but at least something where you and LB are together.
Like out on his porch.
Yeah.
I think that'd be neat.
Yeah, we could do that.
Both the brothers, yeah. That'd be sweet.
We have to do that, Grandpa.
Yeah. I was going to tell you guys, NH had 3 brothers. They had a ranch down there at the Panhandle of Texas and New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And Dad had a book that mentioned them in it. It was like a Western.
Yep.
Only it was non-fictional. But it mentioned those 4 Adams brothers with the ranch down there. LB had it for a while, and he loaned it to Ronnie. And every time I asked Ronnie about it, he didn't know.
Yep.
So I really have liked to have gotten a hold of that book just to see what it was. But anyway, the 4 brothers, NH stayed there. One brother came to Oregon, Myrtle Point. And here about 15 years ago, this woman called my brother and said we're cousins. Her grandfather was Adams, NH's brother
Yeah.
was her grandfather.
Yep.
So they met us over at Holiday Park with Clyde and Early and had a picnic or something
Okay.
and visited with her. But she had the whole Adams side of the brothers from her grandfather's side,
Okay.
Hunt her down.
you know. But a strange dad lived here in Oregon all his life, never knew he had a uncle over there.
Yeah.
Well, it wouldn't even be an uncle, it'd be his uncle.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
Over there.
wild.
Yeah.
It's a small world sometimes.
I'll tell you how small it is. We were at that deal, and she was talking about Myrtle Point. And I said, well, I was just down there working on a radio site for OSP.
Yeah.
I said, I was up on top of this hill, and in the far distance, you can see the ocean. And here's this white 2-story home with 2 oak trees, and it looks abandoned.
Yep.
Anyway, it was sort of a sunset, so I took a picture of that. I whipped it out and showed it to her. That was his place.
Wow.
That is nuts.
Yeah, that's just,
That is so nuts.
Yeah.
who would have thought?
Mm-hmm.
I think the other thing too is any job you have in your life, try to enjoy it, because if you don't, go to something else.
Mm-hmm.
Find something you enjoy.
Yep.
I've been very lucky. I think a lot of that had to do with Dad, because he could fix anything.
Yep.
If he looked and studied it long enough, he could fix it. Well, all my work all through my life has had something to do with that, other than the real estate.
Yep.
That's probably why I didn't feel more comfortable doing real estate.
Mm-hmm.
So, want to Henry now?
Grandpa, you did good, man.
Is that a
You
shot?
said you were bad at interviews.
I
You
don't
did
know.
Yeah,
good.
you killed that.
I was going to tell you the first motorcycle Dad got, LB and I,
Yeah.
was a tote goat.
What's that? A tote goat?
What the hell is
Yeah.
3-wheeler?
I took a picture of one, where were we? It's a Briggs & Stratton motor, handlebars, got larger wheels.
Okay, I know you. I know
The
what
three-wheeler?
you're talking about.
Dad bought it for hunting, but
Yep.
Billy, LB, and I just cut loose with it. That
Yep.
was the first thing. And we were living in Mount Vernon, and LB and I were riding around town, and LB would never let me drive it. I always had to just sit on the back like a knot on a log,
Yeah.
But I kept pestering him to let me ride it or steer it, drive it, So we was going down the street, and I looked behind us. Here was this police car with its lights on. I'm beating on LB's shoulder, trying to get him to stop. He thinks I'm wanting to drive it, so he's not stopping.
Yeah.
Finally, I tell him there's police behind us, and he just whips over. So I bail off and take off running for home. See, I was probably 8,
Yeah. I'm out here.
Yeah.
Well, I get there. I told Dad. I said, "Oh, we're really in trouble, And he looked up, and here come LB pushing it, and a police car behind him. And the guy wrote Dad a ticket.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. He made Mom go pay it.
Oh, man.
But yeah, that was the first motorcycle.
Yeah.
Then he bought a little Honda Cub, which was a 55 or 50 cc. I can't remember. Right there. For irrigating, and man, that thing go anywhere. Had a sprocket darn near the size of the wheel on it.
Yeah.
So
It's all torque.
yeah, I think in 4th gear you might be able to make 12 miles an hour. Pretty safe.
Yep.
So, but when I told him I saw that one in that showroom. He jumped in the car and away we went. I was about 14. We go down there and look at it. It's a 305 Honda Scrambler.
Oh.
And I had about 300 in my savings account. I think they wanted about 475 or something for it. So anyway, I told Dad I'd pitch mine if he'd help me with the rest. He said, okay, but you can never ride it on pavement. Ever. Not on pavement. So he rides it home and I follow him in the car. I'm 15. He's going around, I'm like, get it home. And he made me swear I'd never take it on pavement, So, man, I knew every back road in that country. I could go to Dayville
Really?
on back roads from Seneca.
Wow.
I could go to Burns on back roads.
Oh
from
my
Seneca,
goodness.
You know?
Insane.
I made it to Vale once.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Of course, there was some of the paved logging roads, but
Yeah.
I didn't consider them. If they didn't have a stripe in it, I didn't consider
That's
it
right.
a paved road.
That's right.
Yeah, up until I was in high school, you know.
Hmm.
So, but that was the thing. He just didn't want us on pavement.
Do you remember the first time your dad taught you to ride a motorcycle or put you on a motorcycle?
I remember riding on the gas tank,
Mm-hmm.
and I think LB was in between Mom and Dad.
Yeah.
And I remember it was just vibration, and the tank was cold. I think it was the gasoline was cold. I don't know, you know, but I remember feeling cold.
Yeah.
So I had to have been pretty young then, you know,
Yep.
3, maybe 4,
Yep.
maybe.
Insane.
Yeah, be about the earliest.
So I remember, and Gutter, you'll laugh at this too, is so I'd ridden on the bike with my dad when I was younger, right? He always had his motorcycles.
Mhm.
And then I remember you had bought me that CR80, that old Honda CR80. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So Grandpa bought me this old CR80, and we went to go ride it at Carrie's orchard. Dan's family, remember the orchard? Dan's Orchards?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Remember when we took it out there?
yeah.
So I've never ridden it by myself, or I've always ridden with Dad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, I'm with Grandpa, I'll be safe. He's teaching me.
Oh yeah.
He said, get on, boy.
Get on, boy.
So I get on, and he just goes balls to the walls, dude. Grandpa, you're going as fast as you can through these
I do
orchard
remember
trees.
that.
I'm shitting my pants, pissing my pants. What the hell, Grandpa? You're supposed to be nice, dude. What are you doing? Dude, I remember that. You scared the
do
living
remember.
crap out of me.
I'm so surprised your mother ever let you have it. You know?
But that's the first time I remember riding with you, and you just
Balls to
you
the
showed
wall.
me what that bike was capable of.
Yeah, that was a nice ride. I
That
remember
was.
that, you know,
Yep.
that's sort of like on a dirt track. You'd slide them around those
Yeah.
trees.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I remember another time you took me on I think it was your Yamaha, the V-Star, right? The one you gave to Jaron, I think. I think it was one of your bikes that you had gotten.
Yeah.
And you'd taken me on it when you first got it. And same thing, just, whoa!
Dude,
I'm
that's
just holding
great.
on for dear
That's
life.
all Dad's
dude.
stories
Yeah.
too. He says he just
That's
goes
Your
crazy.
dad brought that hog down and told me to go ahead and ride it. I got on that thing, boy, I hit it like that. It about ripped me off the seat.
Yeah.
It did. I mean, it just, the torque that thing had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's something special about being on a bike and just, back roads, riding.
Yeah, I'll tell you the truth. See, the best feeling I've ever had was when I was flying. It's the minute you leave the ground.
Yep.
You feel that plane sort of slip this way and this way, and then you're free
Yep.
anywhere you want to go.
Yep.
You know, that was always the best feeling.
So that'll be on my bucket list is flying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we want to get something.
Yeah, your dad got up to the student pilot part, but I don't think he ever got his license. But
Yep.
he did that, and that's about all you can afford anymore.
Yep.
You know, I think you're probably talking $6,000-7,000 to get your pilot's license.
Yep. But if we get one of those kit flyers, just those little ones.
Yeah. If I give you a plane, will you build it? I mean, a model.
If he helps me.
Oh yeah.
Would
Oh,
you?
yeah. Oh yeah.
You sure?
Oh yeah.
I trust you with it.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Put it right on top of in the back of the El Camino. Take it to the little field out here on Highway 22.
I'll show you a blueprint.
A blueprint.